I have almost 100,000 followers on YouTube, but I have no friends. Wow, poor you. You have all of these people who have actively chosen that they want to connect with you and see your content. Boo-hoo. Yes, I know. I'm super fortunate and super grateful for every single amazing human. I put a lot of attention, love, and energy into this and let my friendships kind of wither. And of course, you don't need to be a content creator to have this feeling of looking around and asking yourself, what happened to the friends that I had? Why am I going through this thing alone? And of course, the last year and a half has put so much strain on all of our relationships and has made interaction really tough to navigate. But regardless of now or at any point in the past or in the future, this idea of feeling like you don't have any friends is real and it's important. And I want to tell you how I fixed it without making any new friends. Now, I know this kind of sounds like a paradox, but the process I went through has been so affirming and amazing, and I want to share that with you. And I guarantee you, by the time you go through this process, you will not feel like you don't have any friends. Hi, I'm Goodrich. I'm a content creator and creative strategist, and I make content about living up to your potential as a human, not because I have all the answers, but because I want all the answers. And this channel is a combination of communication, psychology, experiments, trying things to figure out how I can be the best version of myself and how you can, and how we can go through this thing together. So if it sounds like that's your jam, feel free to subscribe or don't. I will still love you either way. There are many contributing factors to this feeling of not having friends. Whether you're neurodivergent like myself, that makes it really hard to maintain relationships. Whether you're an introvert and have social anxiety and it's tough to get out there and meet new people. Or it might be that you have stories in your head about who your friends are, what they need, or whether or not your presence is wanted. That might be blocking some of these connections from really showing up fully. The first step that I did that was really important, but it took a lot of work to get there, is I decided to make a list. Now, this was very tough to get started because I literally in my mind felt like you don't have any friends, Gia, like you really don't. But I decided I was going to sit down and list them all anyways. As I started looking back through my life, I thought about even childhood friends, friends from high school, college. I just listed out as many as I could think of. Then I went through my text messages and I just kept scrolling. And I found conversations with people that I have had zero communication with in like 3 years that I still, when I think about them, I love them and I think of them as a friend, but I just forgot about them because they weren't operating in my sphere of attention in my day-to-day life. Then I went to Facebook and Instagram and really just kept an eye out for my internal ping, my body feeling when I scrolled past certain people. And if at all I had any of that, like, oh, I miss them, I want to know them, whatever, I would write their name down. Now you have a list. And the thing is, it doesn't mean that all of these people are going to be friends or that they are your friends, they have been, they will be, none of that. What I then started to think about are 3 circles. And I so wish I remember who told me this because it was like listening to a podcast, they were referencing a friend, and I have no idea how to cite it. If you know, will you leave a comment because I would love to give them credit. This person was sharing that their great friend that has really strong friendships and relationships thinks of their friendships like 3 separate circles. One circle is like your ride or die. These are the people that you would bury a body for, that you are just like, we are in it together. First call when something amazing happens, when something sucktastic happens. These are your people. Next are the people that you have like a warm connection with. You might see them once a year or every couple of years, or maybe more frequently than that. But these are the people you have something in common, you enjoy each other's company, but there isn't as much frequency of communication or expectations in your interactions. Lastly are acquaintances. These are the people that you would see out maybe somewhere, give them a hug, say hi. You have these exchanges and you really have an affinity for them, but your lives might be really full, running in different directions. So other than those brief moments of synchronicity when you come together and see each other, you don't really have as strong of connection. Now, the genius is this person said the way they maintain relationships is they allow people to move between circles depending on where they're at in their life. So somebody in one season might be in that inner circle, but they get in a relationship, something happens, and they're just not frequently around as much. So instead of saying, oh my gosh, we're not friends at all, allowing them to move into a circle where you have less expectation. And similarly, you might have somebody in the acquaintance category that might eventually float into that inner circle or that secondary circle, depending on your interactions over time and your intention. But the goal is to just allow for this fluidity. And once you look at these 3 circles, you'll realize even if you don't think you have any friends, you definitely have people in your life that you've connected with that might belong in one of those circles that you might be able to nudge closer to that inner circle. Now, one amazing human that I love so dearly named Alex Simon, who's a sculptor, has an amazing Etsy shop called Make Good Choices. You should definitely check out. I'll have a link below. She said this thing that was super random, but super poignant. And it was, you have to be a good friend to have good friends. It was just such a small, easy thing that she said that kind of blew my mind. And I realized in that moment, I have not been being a good friend. I have been self-consumed, doing my own thing. I've been forgetting birthdays, not prioritizing hangouts, not following back on text, and all of these things. So of course I feel like I have no friends because I have not been showing up like a good friend to the people that I care about. With that realization, I circled the people who I feel like I want to make an effort to really be their friend, to really get to know them, to really put that effort and energy in so that they can be a good friend to me. Now, a few of them, I got such a ping when I saw their name in my text or whatever that I just immediately pulled out my phone and I made a video. Here's an example. Scrolling way back and I saw your name and I just like lit up inside because I fucking love you. Yeah, I just laid it out on the table and said exactly what I was doing and my intentions and desire to reconnect with them because I think they're amazing human. Not everybody got back to me, which was, wonderful. But I also have to honor that not everybody is going to be a fit depending on where they are in their life. And just because I want to be friends with them might not mean that they have the space, the bandwidth, the energy, the desire to be friends with me. Now, the best hack that I have had for neurodivergence in the last year, and this can extend to whether or not your brain is atypical, is using the scheduling app called Calendly. Now, this is not sponsored, although Calendly, if you want to hang out with me, I love you. So sponsorship would be fabulous. But most people use it for work stuff. I instead use it for personal things. And what I've done is I set up fave friend catch up and send people that link so that they could schedule with me and it would be locked in and it would assure that we would be able to get together rather than the back and forth that can often happen. Since then, I've had multiple walks with amazing humans that reminded me I do actually have friends. I just forgot. And I think that's probably the case for you too. And if you look back long enough in your life, you have met people who you share this affinity and for whatever reason, your paths have dwindled and separated. But if you are willing to put yourself out there and be vulnerable and say, hey, I miss us. I really want to be a better friend and reconnect. Odds are not every person, but a good portion will reciprocate. And then there you go. You don't even need to go out and meet new people because that can be scary. Now you have scheduled hangouts, you're walking, you're talking, you're reconnecting, then what? How do we not fall back into the same trap? 2 things. 1, I make a point every time I hang out with a friend, whether it's IRL or digital, to make a picture. And I tell them, hey, can I make a picture of us? I'm gonna put it in my phone in an album called Friends. And I put it in my photo album so it's one of the first things I see to remind myself that I have friends and that these are people who actively want to spend time with me so that I don't forget about them in the future. The other bonus tip I will say is I had not been counting my family as friends. Now, if your family members include people that you would genuinely want to hang out with, include them in your friends bucket and treat them the same way. Because a lot of times we see each other at Thanksgivings or hangouts and we have these micro conversations, but we don't really cultivate them and prioritize them in the same way that we do our friends. And that is just missing out, she said to herself, because she's caught herself doing this very thing multiple times. Last thing is setting a reminder. Now, honestly, I haven't settled on the perfect app for this. I used to use Garden, which was cool, but then I would forget, it would get out of sync and log me out, and then it wouldn't help. And then I'm trying a couple ones to really see what I can most recommend. But there are multiple apps out there where you can put your friends in, put notes about them, and ask to be reminded every so often. Most of my friends I put in every week or 2 weeks to remind myself to ping them, even if it's just hey, how are you? I'm thinking about you. Or it's let's schedule and get together. The last thing I did, which has been super helpful, is really getting clarity about the type of friendships I want to have and how I want to show up in those friendships. So I sat down to write it to make it clear to my subconscious so I can manifest that shit and wrote down the qualities of the friends that I want to have in my life. And then I put the qualities that I want to have in my friendship. How do I want to show up? What do I want to remember? What kind of interaction and what kind of support do I want to give them? And then make a plan to show up that way, really figuring out how can I be a good friend? And in my case, it's how do I be a good friend whilst being busy and having ADHD and ASD and trying to make sense of it all when it's really difficult for me. So I'm setting up systems in place to make sure that I can really show up as my best self. I also made a plan for meeting new friends, which has been incredible so far. So check it out.